Chicos, how do you dare to dress like that? I feel underdressed in my own show. Nicole Ramon, gracias por estar aquí. Thank you for coming to Hablamos Spanglish. I'm so excited to learn about both of your journeys and to share it with nuestra audiencia. Así que we're going to start with you, Nicole. ¿Verdad? Porque eres la que está más nerviosa. So that's how we're gonna...
Ladies first.
Let's do it. No, Nicole, cuéntanos de Puerto Rico. Pues, tu familia es allá, creciste allá. Cuéntanos de
Puerto Rico. We moved to the United States, actually first to South Carolina. My dad got a job in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And guess how long we lasted there? A year. My mom said it's too cold.
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I heard that twice today because somos de las islas de la tierra caribeña. So,
yep.
No.
So after that, is when we came to Orlando. Mm-hmm. I was about 11 years old. So I've been raised here in Orlando for the most part. Went to middle school, high school, college here in Orlando.
Here in Orlando?
In Orlando. Yep.
Okay. And Ramon, ¿de dónde eres? Y lo dices en español, por favor.
Sí. No, yo nací en un pueblo que se llama Bonao, en la República Dominicana. I was born there, but we left when I was 7 years old. And I was raised in New York City, so la mayor parte de mi vida viví en el Bronx de Nueva York.
Okay.
Y después me mudé para Rhode Island in high school. And then Orlando just 2 years ago. So I've been here for just 2 years.
Just 2 years.
A little bit of everywhere.
Oh my gosh. And how was that transition when you guys came from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic at the beginning? O sea, ¿cómo fue esa transición?
I think for me, it was actually fairly comfortable. I would say first to South Carolina was a little bit more difficult because there's less of a, comunidad hispana in South Carolina.
Yeah.
But coming to Orlando, it was a little easier. I think I was blessed that in Puerto Rico, I went to a private school, so I knew English, from a very, very young age. So the transition here was much easier than, it might be for other people. But again, a very populated area full of Latino, full of Hispanics, so I didn't necessarily lack that growing up either.
Okay. Y Ramon,
I came when I was 7, so I was a lot younger.
Oh, you were young. Yeah.
But still, it's still an adjustment because I had some family over for July 4th weekend, and I was telling them I got here at 7 years old, and I met all these new tias and tios that I never met in my life. Just a bunch of people. Everybody, so un tío, everybody. But it was a transition. But I was young and I was excited about learning English. I was one of those people. I want to learn English as soon as possible. And when I remember I came at the same time as a cousin of mine who's the same age, and she was more like, "Oh, I want to go back. I'm like, I'm here to stay, right? So I wanted to learn English as quick as possible. I was asking the question, ¿Cómo se dice eso? ¿Qué significa eso? So for me, it was a transition, but I was younger, so it wasn't as hard.
And I'll add here, one of the things that, he made me think of that was tougher was we were the only ones here. So the rest of my family is still in Puerto Rico. I have an uncle now who's up north, but aside from that, everybo's in Puerto Rico. It was just my mom, my dad, and my brother who moved up here. So I would say that part, right? I didn't have that, that part here. That was tougher.
And is there something special that you remember that maybe your parents, try to keep, in your homes, that las raíces? How did they manage to do that? Because, hey, I see it because you both came at a very young age, right? And you both, are leaders in the Hispanic community. So esas raíces, they stay with you through all your life, right? So something, your family, your parents did to keep it, within you.
So I think the traditions in Navidad, everything stayed the same. My mom, she went back to school when she got here, and she went to school at Ana Jiménez and actually then started working there right after. So se quedó esa comunidad bien hispana. And a lot of the family friends that we have where we spent the Christmases, the New Year's was, con la parranda en Navidades. So that's how we were able to keep a lot of that, year over year. Until we became adults.
Yeah.
No, igual eso like we kept a lot of the same traditions, right? Because like she mentioned, I had a lot of family when I got here already here that had migrated before. So Y el dominicano es bien orgulloso. So, todo, tú sabes, toda la música, la comida, todo se quedó igual. Y en el Bronx, en los 90 era eso. Muchos dominicanos, muchos hispanos. Y los parties, ¿sabes? Todos los fines de semana. I was joking with my son because now I have kids. It's a little harder, right? To maintain that with kids nowadays. But I make sure we do that. We bring my kids once a year back to the Dominican Republic. Y en una semana cogen un acento dominicano. And it's true.
Español perfecto.
But then they go back to, oh, yo no sabo. And I'm like, ¿cómo que tú no sabes?
That's so funny. And now fast forward, right, to today. But, well, no, let's not do it to today. Your college. Because I know that to talk about ALPFA, we need to talk about your college year, right?
Yep.
So when you went to college, how did you learn about ALPFA, which is the Latinos Association of Professionals of America? So how did you learn about it? And, you know, ¿qué te llevó o qué los llevó? Right.
Well, and to give some perspective, back then, you know, ALPFA rebranded. Back then, it was the Association of Latino Professionals in Finance and Accounting.
That's true.
And so I was in business school, and I made very good friends with un colombiano, se llama Luis.
Okay.
Who we took several classes together, and you know, we studied together, we looked at organizations together, and one day we, you know, ran into ALPFA. And he's like, Nicole, let's go. And he kept kind of, you know, I'm like, no, I need to study, stay in the library. I was very, right? But no, come on, let's go. And so it was really through him that I got into the consistency of attending meetings. And it was really the end of my junior year, if I'm not mistaken, and the beginning of the senior year. And it so happened that year, my senior year, ALPFA National was hosting their annual convention in Orlando.
Okay.
And I attended the convention in Orlando, and I got my very first job out of college from that convention on the spot. And that was as Verizon was opening up their headquarters here in Heathrow Lake Mary. They were transitioning their financial transformation headquarters here. And so I think that gave me kind of validation. I'm like, okay, like if that was, you know, you're in your senior year, you're stressed out. What am I going to do after I graduate? You know, how many places am I going to go interview? Where am I going to get a job? Right? You have that constantly going through your head. And that opportunity that I got through that one event, I was like, okay, I need to give, you know, this a little more.
And what called you to be part of the organization? Because, you know, you were practically raised here, right? But we already know that you have your roots and everything. But what called you to say, I want to be, because it's like we say, it's the familia, right? We're always looking for our roots too.
Well, I think we really didn't find another business finance organization that had Latino presence, you know? I don't have the names off the top of my head right now, but you see them everywhere on campus. But this was the only one that I could recall that we ran into that, you know, had that Latino community, which
you feel related.
Yeah. And Luis really, you know, I think he got here more as older than I did, and so, you know, just following that.
¿Y tú, Ramon?
Well, me, I started getting involved with ALPFA after college. Okay. So I went to college in Rhode Island, and I started my career at a company called PwC. So PwC, one of the big four accounting firms, as soon as you get in there, you know, they're handing out these memberships left and right. Like, you could just sign up for free. So I'm like, you know, all right, ALPFA, Latinos, let's do it. And to be honest, at first, I looked at it more as, oh, you know, they do social events every so often. I get to go to these social events. And I was consistently involved, just because it was very encouraged. And then I got to go to my first national convention. That's kind of where you see, like, oh, wow, like the impact, it's crazy. And I was like, okay, I want to get a little more involved. So as soon as I got back from convention, I was like, how can I get involved in one of the committees and whatnot? And that was back in the Boston chapter. But it just calls me because, you know the importance of networking, right, when you're in the business world. And it's just so much easier and much more fun to network when you have people you already have a common background with. It's easier to just join any group, go up to someone, because you know you have that common background, common past struggles, right? If we all come from, you know, first generation immigrants, and you all know that imposter syndrome, we all kind of all have it. So there's so many things that you could talk about. It makes it a lot easier. So I enjoyed it from the beginning, and then little by little started getting more involved.
Awesome. And then, Nicole, how did you get involved did you get involved in the professional chapter as soon as you graduated from college? Because you're a success stories from our community, right? And you led ALPFA for several years.
So yes and no. And so I say no because it wasn't right away. I graduated, started working, and let's, dive right in.
Okay.
I remained involved more on the social, on the social side.
Yeah, of course.
And, events happen in life, like they happen to all of us. I lasted about a year and a half, almost 2 years in that role that I was at. But little by little, I started realizing, I don't know if this is something that I want to do or that I see myself doing like for the rest of my life, or, for too much longer. What are my options? And so automatically who comes to mind as the people that I turn to have these conversations, right? The executives that were part of the board at ALPFA, right? Hector Perez at the time, Ixchel Duarte. Like these are successful Latino professionals that are, that you look up to. Of course, I'm going to go approach them about, hey, this is happening. What do I do? Right? And so it was really through conversation that made me get deeper involved in the professional sector. This is Nicole. This is a professional development organization. Give your time, volunteer. And little by little, you'll start finding little things. Hey, I enjoy doing this. I don't like doing that. Let's, right? Let's discard that. And so through that process as well, one of my managers at the time and a friend has started a journey. My former manager was an alumni, and the friend at the time has started her journey at Rollins College, Crummer Graduate School of Business. And so I learned that there was a program for career changers in there. Oh, wow. And as I started exploring it, it made more and more sense for the situation that I was in. And again, then who did I turn to get the recommendation letters? The people that have seen me work in the community, the Latinos, so my familia and the executives through ALPFA. And so really that's how my more formal, dedicated involvement started, was purposely finding areas in the organization that I could place myself, either to find what I liked, what I didn't, and then upskill myself, right? Find professional development opportunities within my involvement.
Yeah. And Ramon, cuéntanos when you get here, and because you have been in ALPFA in different cities, right?
Yeah.
So that's the beauty also about ALPFA, because it's funny, but when I went to Denver recently, and I met one of the Denver leaders last year, right, at the Leadership Summit, right? So then I stay connected with her. I text her, hey, let's have, breakfast before I go, things like that. And that's the beauty. And even if you can catch an event, whatever you're traveling, that's the beauty or if you move, you find your local chapter. So I see that you have done that.
That's exactly what happened to me, right? So I've been involved in ALPFA over 15 years. And when I moved to Orlando, July 2022, and they were going to have the convention here in August that year, or late July, in Orlando. So I was like, all right, I'm moving to a new city. All right, I'm going to the convention. Like it just happens in that city. So signed up for the convention. I go to the convention. Everybody I'm talking to, I'm like, hey, I'm just moving down here. I'm trying to get involved. Oh, you got to meet Nicole. And I'm like, okay. Literally, everywhere I go, you got to meet Nicole at the convention. I'm new to Orlando. And then I'm sitting somewhere, like waiting outside of a conference room. And somebody else, oh, you got to meet Nicole. She's right here. She happens to be sitting right there. I'm like, hey. So I met Nicole. And before, I've always been involved with ALPFA, helped out with specific events, some committees, but never really joined the board because it's a lot of work. It's volunteer, but it's a lot of work. But I saw like Nicole's passion from the beginning. Like she was really big into trying to bring the chapter back to what it was after COVID. And she was doing it on her own.
I know.
And you and some of the other people. And I was like, hey, I want to help. But again, I was like afraid of joining the board. So I was like, I'll help on the committees. But once I started doing it, like you have the love for it. And this is something I do effortlessly, right? Because it's not like you have to drag yourself to do something for office. Like you really enjoy it. So I think, little by little, I was like, well, I'm doing everything that a board member does anyway. So I'm like, Nicole, all right, I'm ready to join the board. So that's how kind of I got a little more involved here in Orlando.
Yeah, and I remember when I learned about ALPFA, it was many years ago, but it was in the finance. In the finance space, and I didn't see myself at that time. I will attend some events and network the same, just stay connected that way. But then when it changed, actually, I think that was a turning point, right, for many of us, because I wanted to be part of something that where I feel, connected to my roots, that have the personal, background, things like that. And I couldn't find it because for me it was, I don't belong here because it's only finance. But then it opened the doors, and I remember just talking to you after I was transitioning out from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce board, and Nicole was like, "Hey, we have this opportunity," and she was doing everything by herself. I don't know how you did it, Nicole, but I mentioned it to you at the early in the year that you have done an incredible job and opening the doors to other Latinos to experience what ALPFA is incredible. I remember telling you, like, I want to help, want to support my Hispanic community, but I learned about what ALPFA truly was when I went to the Leadership Summit, when I saw so many Latino professionals in one room just giving their time, to help other Latino professionals to advance in their careers here in the United States. That to me is spoke volumes, right? So
powerful.
It is very powerful. It is very powerful. What's your why? I know your journey, but what's your why to stay connected? Because now you're at a regional level, right? So I want to learn about. Yeah.
Well, I'll start by saying I know it seems like I did it alone, but believe it or not, I had a lot of support and advice from all the people that came before me. And then obviously little by little, as I met you all, you all contributed. So I didn't really do it fully alone. Why I've chosen to stay connected all these years, it might sound cliche, but it is to give back in the sense of I wouldn't be where I am. Again, my very first opportunity out of college, I found it through the ALPFA convention. As I was ready to make a shift, at a point in time where you feel lost, right? If you have your own business, you've gone through career changes, right? That's not a good feeling, right? The confusion, right? What do I do next? And who helped me make those decisions? The executives and the individuals that I turned to at ALPFA that helped guide me. Again, they got me the recommendations I needed to take that next step. Out of when I was finishing up my MBA, right? It was the president of ALPFA who saw my potential and hired me for my next career opportunities. I was starting to build my own financial services practice as an advisor. The opportunity that I have now as a director at BNY Mellon, guess where it came from, right? Through ALPFA. So I'm still involved and I give back because every single move that I have made, it stemmed from the organization and the individuals that are connected to this organization. And so why wouldn't I give back to do the same for others that, again, I know what it feels to be there from a student to building up in the chapter. So I really do it to give back the same way that so many others have allowed me, the opportunities that I have today. You never know the impact that you can make in someone's life.
True. It's
you
true.
never know.
It's true. And I kind of echo that. I think for me, bien similar, like kind of growing up, I feel like I didn't have a lot of role models in the areas of where I dreamed to be, right? So I think, mi mamá trabaja en una factoría, mi papá en Dominicana in a coal mine. Like it was, and that's not what I wanted to do. If I wanted to be a lawyer, a scientist, I didn't know any lawyers or scientists, right? And I think ALPFA puts you in a situation, one, to be a role model, but then also to connect role models with people who need role models. Like now as president of ALPFA, I find myself doing that a lot more, like just connecting people. And it's amazing. Like it's as simple as they reach out to you, let me connect you to this person, but they wouldn't meet that person otherwise, right? So it's like you're making an impact in people's lives. So
and you never know who you can get connected to or who you can connect to someone that can give them or you that next opportunity. It's true. Something I've learned.
It's true. So I think for me that was the biggest thing. I think growing up, a lot of the male, especially male figures in my family, they were more like laborers, right? And nothing wrong with that, right? But it was like I couldn't have a conversation with anyone about the things I was aspiring to be, right? So then now I find myself in a position where we're interns at BNY and I talk to them all the time. The younger kids in my family now, pueden hablar conmigo siempre about any of these things. Like, simple things as applying for college. I couldn't go to my mom. Hey, mommy, I got to fill out this financial aid form. Figure it out. She didn't even understand the English to begin with. Never mind what the form says. So now it's like I can be that person, or I can find the person who's going to be that for someone.
And you, ahorita tocaste un punto that is very important, because for me at the beginning, when I was in college, I, was looking for an organization to be part of. Like, I was part of the Latino Association, but then, y también de la de salsa, porque bailaba salsa. pero en ese momento, ALPFA was for finance, right? But I wish I had that opportunity in college, where I was navigating everything also by myself, even though my dad was already live here for many years and all that, but this is different. Mm-hmm. You're in your own journey, like trying to figure things out. In my case, also because I didn't see any role models que lucían como yo, I didn't even apply to jobs that I wanted to apply, right?
No se limita, ¿ves?
Sí. You limit yourself because I didn't come with un mentor como tú lo tenías. So I am super happy, to be part of this organization that is changing, things and helping nuestros Latinos profesionales avanzar. Pero what would you say and what would you recommend un estudiante, Latino, that's starting their careers right now, or they're applying for college? What will be the first thing that you will take? Piénsalo.
I can't think of one thing.
Bueno,
let me see. Let's start with this one. Get involved, and even if it's not ALPFA, right? You find an organization that you feel passionate about, that you have a purpose for, that something that, right, that you connect with, and give your time and your effort, because again, I feel opportunities will come out of it. Yes, connections. And I think, again, you made a very good point. You never know who you can meet that can give you the next opportunity, but also experiences. And again, I think when you asked me back on my why, if I wouldn't have gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have grown and continued to, do what I'm doing. So I think experiencing that when you give like 100% of your time and effort is important. And you get back what you give. It's a law of the universe, right? So I would say that, find some time aside, aside from the studying, aside from the having fun, find what that is and dedicate time to it and be purposeful about it. Is one thing I would say. And I think a second thing, you made me think of the mentor thing. I don't think enough students are also purposeful about that and seeking that out. I know it's tough, right? I don't want to go up to Ana Carolina and, do I ask her to be my mentor? This how it works. I think it's getting involved in organizations like that too, where sometimes that comes natural because you have something to relate to. Yeah. But if you find people like that can mentor you, that can sponsor you, it makes a world of a difference because you're not starting from, scratch, if you will, right? You have a resonating board, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Somebody, right, that can give you that advice. So I think those are two things that they happened for me, but if I would have been given that advice, way beforehand, I would have probably, sought that out my sophomore year, right, or my junior year, much quicker.
No, I agree. I agree with those things as well. I think for me, and college student or early career individual or even high school student, like dare to dream, right? Like I think, like I mentioned just recently, like yo creo que muchas veces nosotros como Latinos and especially like first generation immigrant or whatnot, we limit ourselves so much, right? And our goal is, our parents, whatever they do whatever they do to get us to where they need to get us to, right? And then our goal is just to be better than them, right? But that literally means just one level better than them, right? So, alguna veces uno dice, bueno, mi mamá never bought a house. If I buy a house, I'm a success in front of her, right? So that's it. That's your dream. I'm gonna do enough to, or if I get a job with benefits, all of a sudden, tú estás bien, tú tienes beneficio, don't move from there, right? But then it's like, that limits you from going to the next level and the next level and the next level. So it's like, for me, it's like, don't limit yourself just based on who you're surrounded by, unfortunately, right? Because, and surround yourself with other individuals as well that are going to push you to do better. Because if not, you're only going to go one level above your parents. Then your kid's only going to go one level above you. It's going to take a long time for, for any real generational change. So for me, right, I'm trying to go, let's say 10, 20 levels above my parents, right? So then my kids, Romeo and Royce, they could be like, oh, now we got to go above Papi, right? Like if they're going to go a little more, right? So I think it's like, take it to the next level because a lot of times we do limit ourselves just based on our backgrounds and it's going to take us longer to get there. So.
Of course. And that's a great point, the mindset. That's something even in my business I needed to work on. And I have my professional, my business coach who has helped me with that. Because I remember la primera vez que me dijeron, oh, how much would you like to make? And I say, dije $100,000, $100,000. Pero no, Hannah, ese eres tú. Not the business, right? So, and even you can make more too. ¿Sabes? Entonces es como que, but that's because we don't know what we don't know also. And just being able to, like you said, experience, be part, it doesn't have to be alpha, but joining organizations, volunteering, that opens your eyes, having a mentor. And all that has helped me a lot too. Because it's like, I have had Belinda, and we were talking about us being part of Leadership Orlando. That was 4 years ago, and I remember being in that program, and I'm like, no. Mi visión cambió. It changed completely. It broadened my spectrum because there are so many things that we don't know, and I'm coming from our own countries, and like you say, is also what, como yo veo a mi papá ha sido súper exitoso, but then I also want to make him proud, but also I want to give back to him, right? Y poder darle lo mejor. So, y eso lo vemos en todos los latinos. So,
it's a different mindset, right? I feel like, yo a veces me pongo a pensar como que, if you think of like a traditional American family, like, parents like set themselves up financially. And I know you were in the insurance industry. Parents set themselves up financially, right? Para dejarte like a parting gift. Like whenever they pass, te dejan de todo. Yeah. A veces en la comunidad latina es al revés, ¿verdad? For lack of better words, te dejan a veces deberes, right? Like they leave and they leave you with certain debts, certain things. It's a different mindset. So I remember reading a book that said that, like, within Latinos, we feel like sometimes our parents' 401k is their kids, right? You set them up for success so they can take care of you, but it's like an extra thing you have to worry about in life. So it's like, it's algo que podemos hacer un poquito diferente. And I think it starts little by little with kind of the work we do in our communities.
Yeah. And the people we surround ourselves with. You both said it. The people we surround ourselves with difference. Is what'll little by little change the way we think.
So, what's your goal in your new role? Well, you have been there ya por unos meses, pero...
No, un mes.
Un
mes.
Just 1 month? She might be talking about your
ALPFA. No, ALPFA.
Oh, with ALPFA. I'm like, with my new role, it's 1 month.
No.
Got it.
You can ya va, Nicole. You were in January.
Okay. With ALPFA.
Yeah,
okay,
with ALPFA. Then, we'll talk about your new role. Pero, ¿cómo was that, that goal that you have? Because you have experience ALPFA in different levels, but now as a regional, what's that goal that you have?
So, at a regional level, I think several things. First and foremost, I took on this role to be more the connector between ALPFA National and the chapters at a local level, right? We're all part of ALPFA. I think we join it for the same reasons. But, again, un chapter local en Orlando es distinto que un chapter in Nashville que un chapter in LA, right? And so, making sure that aside from the vision and everything you all heard in CLS align, but that the resources and the support, again, I took over as president of the ALPFA Orlando chapter right after COVID. Like right after, we were a huge chapter and then we shut down, right? No events, no anything, right? So how do we to help the chapters that are either restarting, building to get to the next level, or, hey, X place doesn't have one. I'm a Latino that just got there and I just moved from Orlando. I want to start a chapter here, right? We can be that connection to bring the resources from national to help them do that. And I would also say, now having experienced a little bit more taking part at regional events, we talked here about making connections here at a local level in Orlando, but like you said, why not think bigger?
Exactly.
Right? Why wouldn't I want to make my connections at a regional level? What if, next year I want to be in Charlotte, right? Right? Now I have people that I know, hey, Karen, right?
Exactly.
From Bank of America. I'm looking to move to Charlotte. What do you suggest? What area, right? So it's, I think it's a little bit twofold, helping the chapters at a local level make that connection with national and being a resource to them, but also expanding, our potential, what we can do, our opportunities.
And I love that, because that also, if you know somebody that is moving, you can easily, tell them, hey, and
I'd say not just selfishly for me. Again, if you're, hey, Nicole, I'm going to travel to Denver. 1 second, let me connect you right with so-and-so. And it's, they're going to say yes because they feel that same connection because they are part of ALPFA. They're not going to say no. They're going to take the time out from their busy schedules and meet with you over coffee, over lunch, over anything.
Yeah. And Ramon, tú en tu año.
Yeah. So I guess as new president of ALPFA, I guess we talked a little bit about how, Nicole took over as president after COVID. So I think for her, it was just kind of bringing it back up, right? Getting things standing. And she left a great structure, right? We have a lot more board members now. So I think for me as ALPFA president now, it's kind of taking what we built over the last couple of years and continuing to expand it, right? Continue to scale it. Because we have a lot more board members, committee members, getting more sponsors. So it's like, all right, how do we continue to go in that direction, right? So I think from, growing out the number of events we have, the impact of the events we have, regionalizing them now, right? Because it's not like, hey, we don't need to just do an Orlando event. We could have a Southeast event, right? And then bring people from everywhere. So I think for me, it's just kind of continuing to grow ALPFA. And coming from the Northeast, I always say this to people in Boston, New York, like ALPFA is a well-known organization. Yeah. You say, I'm part of ALPFA, and you don't have to say anything else. Aquí, I've noticed, I'm ALPFA. What's that? Oh, it's the Association for Latino Professionals. And you have to go through your little spiel, which is great because we're doing a lot of informing. But as we talk, Ana Carolina, we want to do a lot of brand awareness, right, with the marketing team, because I want ALPFA to be kind of like it is in the Northeast, right? It's like, you just say ALPFA y ya, no tiene que decir más nada, right? So,
y aquí continúa creciendo, right? With new people, that might not know about it. And
if I can add one thing to that, I think also for our sponsors, because our sponsors have been a big part, both at a local and at a regional level, a big part of the growth. So bringing something like, imagine in your organization with now, your Bold is our marketing sponsor, right? Bringing that into your organization, how can those relationships that are built maybe impact your employees, right? I think the Orlando Magic, little by little, they've done more and more with us, right? So how can we bring ALPFA into their organization, maybe employees who haven't heard of us, right? To build that, to implement that professional development piece. So I think that's a, different way to look at it too, on the giving back side.
Yeah, and it's a perfect way also for these corporations to give back, but also incorporate their employees in a year-round initiative and approach that is not just during Hispanic Heritage Month, right? Is they are supporting every day, every month, an organization like ALPFA that support Latinos.
And like you said, employees that maybe don't have access to some of these resources that we've been talking about in this whole conversation.
Yeah. So now that I mentioned Hispanic Heritage Month, what is Hispanic Heritage Month to you?
I think to me, it's again celebrating our heritage. In the last few, and I'm going to talk about it more from an ALPFA side because, when it comes to what we do, I know we get a lot, what events are we doing for Hispanic Heritage Month? It's actually the sponsors that want to bring us for Hispanic Heritage Month to what they're doing to the event. Specifically for that, they want to expose an organization like us to the employees that maybe don't, they attend things here and there, but no, they take that month to celebrate their, we're going to decir un disparate, su hispanidad.
Iba a decir algo en Spanglish.
Sí,
Eso es lo que
Spanglish.
pasa. Lo puedes decir.
En Puerto Rican Spanglish. Right? But the sponsors ask us to come into their organization. And so our Hispanic Heritage Month at ALPFA is usually busier than most because we have, 8 to 10 events that we are coming into to talk about that. And it's implemented into the celebration of, our Hispanidad.
Yeah, yo creo que en Alpha we celebrate it every day because we so many events.
No, I think similar to that. I think for me, it's an opportunity for us as Latinos, right, and Hispanics to kind of showcase our heritage, right? A lot of people know us for our music or our food, but it's beyond that. So I like to see organizations who take it a kind of a step more, right, and say, oh, let me give you some historical figures who are very important to kind of educate people about it. One of the former organizations I worked for, I kind of led the Hispanic Heritage Month committee. And what we did like a book club. And we had people reading a certain amount of books so we could discuss them every week during Hispanic Heritage Month. And through literature, we learned so much more about, different Hispanic communities because we all know we're all Hispanic. We claim the same, right? But we're so different in the same way. We're not a monolith, right? So it's like it's always good to showcase those differences because I think it makes it even, I guess, more interesting where we are. And then just the fact that it happens right when a lot of countries have their independence, right, that month. You get to see kind of ese orgullo de cada país, right? Like for Dominican Republic, we're in February, so we don't get to celebrate during that month. Pero, but it's good to see, like, esa pasión que sale de cada país, right? And it you can kind of identify with it. So I love Hispanic Heritage Month, and like at ALPFA, we like Nicole said, we go into our sponsors' offices and things to kind of showcase that. But then even locally in the community, you find a lot of events, and there's always something going on there in that month. So it's a busy month.
Yeah, it is a busy month. We start, sé que comienza el 15, pero we actually start September 1st until the last day of October. Now we have the event with Orlando Magic, the last day of October, which I think they nailed it. Yep. Choosing that day. Okay.
Everyone's done.
Yeah, vamos a cerrar con broche de oro. Pero thank you guys for being here, for sharing your story. You guys are doing an incredible job, leading as leaders of ALPFA and also as a role model for the students, Latino students, even for professionals that, when they see you guys achieving, so many great things like your new position, and the new company. ¿Cuál es la compañía? BNY. Que están trabajando ahora. Se vinieron juntos.
Me jalaron.
Sí, se jalaron. Pero eso es bueno. That I love that, you are as an example para otros latinos que están allá afuera, y lo voy a decir en español porque quiero dar acceso también a aquellos que nos escuchan, que no sabían de ALPFA y que ahora sí saben y que han escuchado sus historias y pueden ellos también tocar las puertas. ¿A dónde tocan las puertas? Where can they find ALPFA?
Here.
Here.
Yes.
No, but you can go to our website, right? So we have alpha.org/Orlando. You find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, very active, and reach out to Nicole.
Connect with us as individuals. Yeah. We will find the right person to put you in contact with.
Un cafecito virtual.
Exacto.
Right.
Un vasito de vino.
Sí, también, un vinito. Sí.
Lo han mencionado como 3 veces el vino.
Sí, la próxima vez le invito y habrá vino. Pero sí, gracias, ¿verdad? Por todo lo que están haciendo. Y también hemos creado una linda familia en nuestro chapter, which I really love, and we have an amazing group. A shout out to all of them that are contributing to making an amazing team here.
And if I can say thank you to you for one, getting involved when we first met, and you, for bringing in your company and again, being that marketing resource for ALPFA and for the Hispanic community. So thank you too.
No, definitely. You need to thank yourself as well, porque tú le das mucho acceso a la gente. I mean, everybody in Orlando, I feel like. So it's always good, like when we're planning for events, hey, where can we do it? Who can we invite? We can always reach out to you because tú como que conoces a todo el mundo.
Es que yo digo, that's if you were to ask me, my superpower, that's also being a connector. I love connecting people, and if I can shorten the time, ¿sabes? De alguien a tener acceso también. I want people to have access to maybe things that I didn't have access to because it didn't exist or because actually there was an outreach or, many different things. Pero yo creo que eso, that's my passion. And yo creo que this year hasn't been the easiest, but ahí vamos.
You're still doing a great job at
it. Ahí vamos. Pero bueno, gracias por estar aquí.
Thank you for having us.
Muchísimas gracias, mi gente. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey of Hablamos Spanglish. It is a pleasure for me to explore the diverse stories and experiences within our vibrant Hispanic community. I hope that you have found inspiration, connection, and a deeper appreciation for our culture and heritage. Remember, our stories are what unite us and what make us stronger. Stay tuned for more captivating episodes in the future, and don't forget to follow us on social media and share your thoughts with us. Hasta pronto.